Hey, what's happening, spectacular Spider friends? Welcome back to Kwings Let's Plays and more Spider-Man No Way Home discussion topics. Today we're talking about the post-credit sequence for Venom. So, spoilers! This will also be spoilers for Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage, as well as possibly the future of what the Sonyverse is going to be. So,
spoilers!
Yeah.
Spoilers! Spoiler alert.
Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell to be notified when more awesome Spidey videos arrive. And special shoutouts to all our members, including our Ultimates. If you guys want to join up, all you have to do is click right here, select the tier. That'll work best for you. So, if you have not seen Spider-Man No Way Home, this next section will be all about Venom and the Sonyverse a little bit. So, you've been warned. All right, it's time for us to dive into Venom, starting with Let There Be Carnage, the post-credit sequence. So, the original post-credit sequence with our friend Eddie Brock and Venom, they're watching Nueva, or it's a...
Telenova.
Yeah, Telenova. I'm bad with Spanish. It's a Spanish soap opera that's been on for a very long time. At least, I think that's what they're watching. And Venom is a huge fan of it. So it takes place after the events of their battle with Carnage, where they killed Carnage.
Yeah, it looks like a Spanish soap opera to me.
Yep, and Eddie and Venom are kind of getting along again before they had like a big fight and they kind of separated. So Venom was out at Mardi Gras and all this other stuff. You have to watch the movie, but this is a funny movie. Like the Venom movies, they're very different than what I would think the Venom films would be about, like, which is just you eating brains and possessing people and fighting Spider-Man.
Yeah, they make it funny, but I actually haven't seen the Venom movies, but I did just watch Luke just re-showed me the post-credit scene from the Venom.
So they're hanging out. They're not really talking so much about the events that happen in the movie. They're just kind of being buds, best friends, watching a Spanish soap opera. And
watching their stories together.
Yeah, watching their stories. And Venom and him are having like this very deep conversation where Venom basically explains the multiverse randomly.
Yeah, he's about to start explaining like the vast knowledge of like everything he's collected.
Because he was saying that soap operas are very important to watch because they like explain the human condition and like the soul and all this other stuff. And it's like very important for a learning process because he's an alien. So, he's explaining why he likes soap operas, and Eddie's teasing him, and then he's like, you don't understand how complex this stuff is. He's like, take the multiverse, for example, or he says infinite universes. And then he's like, all right, and he says, we need to be careful, though, because I don't want to, fry my host's brain because it's so insignificant compared to the vast collective conscience of the symbiotes, which basically that Venom confirms that all the Venoms that have existed and that do exist throughout the multiverse are tied to that Venom.
Yeah.
Which is weird. So that means Tobey Maguire's Venom, who, he fought in 2007, is connected to Eddie Brock's Venom from 2018 or 2019, 2021.
They are connected.
That's weird.
So space and time and being in an alternate universe, it doesn't separate them. They are connected. So basically what Luke is saying is that whatever happened to Venom with like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man,
Topher Grace and Tobey,
and Topher Grace and everyone, basically this Venom from 2021 will remember what happened to him in another universe with another Spider-Man in another timeline.
Yep. Exactly.
So it's like, it's almost like I don't know if it's like it happened to him, but he'll remember it as if he knows what happened.
Well, that's why I don't understand what a collective consciousness is. Does he relive those memories, or is it just kind of like he's aware of the knowledge? Like they share like basically like if they had like a computer they could tap into that had files from, other Venoms or something. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it.
For someone who spent a lot of time on the internet as myself, looking at conspiracy theories
as opposed to someone else.
Collective consciousness, I don't really know how to explain what it isn't, but like, that new movie that we saw, basically where we saw a commercial in the theaters for a new movie with I think it was Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah, Michelle Yeoh.
And that movie is about collective consciousness. Basically, she's able to tap into her powers from different universes of herself.
So it's basically like the One, but the female version.
Exactly. Like, where in one universe, she's a lawyer. In another universe, she's a martial arts instructor. So she's able to somehow, like, through just
channel her abilities.
Feeling those different versions of herself, she's able to, without going to law school, get the powers of knowing how to argue in court and get the powers of martial arts without even, exactly. She's able to get, so it's not like it happened to her personally, but she's able to, like, act as if it happened to her.
Yep. Sorry, this section is kind of dark, guys.
Sorry.
It's nighttime.
So yeah, I'm thinking, like, with Venom, I'm thinking it's not like it happened to him, but it's as if it, like, he knows how his other version feels. He knows what his other version was thinking. He knows how that impacted him.
Yeah.
He can learn from the battle, so he would already know, like, Tobey Maguire's tactics, and he would know, he could actually learn from what he already learned. So everything,
avoid pumpkin bombs.
So whatever he learned, his other version of himself, he already can know that. Yeah.
So anyway, they're watching TV, and Venom starts to basically tap into his vast collective knowledge, and all of a sudden Venom starts freaking out. He's like, Eddie, what's happening? And they're transported to the world of Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Like, because Venom was knew that Peter Parker was Spider-Man, or a version of him knew, and Venom was sucked into Doctor Strange's spell, because at the same time that, you know, Venom and Brock were chilling in their apartment, and, you know, he was just kind of messing around with part of, like, the infinite knowledge of the universe just to tease Eddie. As soon as he basically opened up that server in his mind, or minds, or hive mind, or whatever you call it, he discovered, or that Venom, that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. But they don't outright tell you until the post-credits scene for No Way Home, and Eddie is pulled in with Venom to this place, and as soon as Venom sees Spider-Man on the TV, Tom Holland with JJ basically, you know, doing his thing like, Spider-Man is a menace and he's Peter Parker.
Yeah.
As soon as he hears the name Peter Parker, I thought Venom was going to say Parker, which would have been chilling, because, you know, Venom hates Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Or at least the symbiote does, because he rejected the symbiote. So that means the symbiotes throughout the multiverse would know of Peter, and that Peter said no to their vast power and their, you know, things. And also they've had a taste of Peter Parker's, like, DNA. Yeah. Because of the spider stuff. So it made the Venom stronger. Right. So I would have loved for Venom, this would have been the icing on the cake, like during that scene where he's walking up to the TV, if he would have been like, Parker, you know, and Eddie be like, who? And be like, I don't know, but I hate this guy. You know, all he does is he just walks up to the TV and he licks it. Like, that's, you know, gross. We need to see Spider-Man or whatever. And Eddie's, of course, freaking out because he's in some guy's hotel room, you know, no idea where he is. And they just kind of ended abruptly, where in the Carnage movie, where the guy comes out of his bathroom and he's like, hey, man, what are you doing in my hotel room? And Eddie's just kind of like, and then they just cut it. Yeah. And unfortunately, just spoilers for No Way Home, totally, guys and gals, they don't have Eddie really in the movie. I don't really count post-credit sequences as Venom being a part of the No Way Home movie. It's kind of like a teaser of either Venom's next movie or what Sony is going to be doing. Yeah, if you're in the post-credits scene, you're not really in the movie. You're in the credits scene as a teaser for what will happen in the future. Or a trailer for an upcoming movie like they did with the Doctor Strange thing, which we'll talk about a little later on. Yeah, definitely. But like what you were saying about the collective consciousness thing, so like, if you, like, the whole point of being conscious is knowing. So even though he hasn't fought Tom Holland directly, he knows. He knows Spider-Man. He knows because of the whole collective consciousness thing. He would know that he fought Tom Holland, or yeah, he knows that Tom Holland is Spider-Man. So the whole spell was anyone who knows that. It wasn't, the Doctor Strange's spell wasn't everyone who's met Tom Holland. It's everyone who knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. So he does know. So therefore, he would be brought in, which would be sense. You know, they know frighteningly little about the multiverse, but we know that there are infinite Spider-Man realities, and we've actually played and watched various Spider-Man multiverse stuff growing up. You had the 90s Spider-Man cartoon show where he fought Venom. Both Brock and Venom knew who Spider-Man was, so you could say that the animated series Spider-Man is connected to the movieverse. Spectacular Spider-Man fought Venom, but Venom was Harry Osborn, so that Venom would know, who Peter is. At least I think it was Harry Osborn. I don't remember.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like they were ahead of their time. They were already kind of doing the multiverse thing, or you have two different things going on with Venom. Number one, you have this weird glob that goes over all space and or whatever universes, and then you also have the fact that you're in the multiverse, so it's like interplanetary travel, interdimensional travel.
It makes my head hurt. Yeah, crazy.
So so maybe the animated series was already thinking of all this stuff that, people are like, well, the multiverse wasn't introduced till blah, blah, blah. Well, it probably was always in the back of the minds of people doing the animated Spider-Man
the
stuff.
Spider-Man had the first ever use of the Spider-Verse was in the animated series.
Interesting.
The 90s animated series did a type of Spider-Verse, which was the final season of the 90s Spider-Man show where he was chasing Mary Jane throughout the multiverse because his version of Mary Jane that he married was a clone of Hydro Man, which was a Spider-Man villain that's made of water, and he was cloned by an evil scientist. So basically, even though the Spider-Man saga was really dumb in the 90s, the Clone Saga, the Spider-Man animated series did a quick, I'd say 5 or 6 episode arc. What was great about the 90s Spider-Man series, which I still hold in such high esteem, even though the show was super censored and Spider-Man wasn't allowed to throw punches or kicks, every action he did was kind of they would pan away from the blow because they couldn't show it for censorship. Storylines that covered everything from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and even the 90s, but they did it tastefully, just like Batman the Animated Series.
Cool.
And the Spider-Man show, you know how for the most part Batman the Animated Series is a series of just offshoot episodes where they could take place in their own continuity if they wanted.
Yeah.
Except for where the episodes had a 1 or 2 parter, something like that.
Yeah.
Well, Spider-Man on Fox Kids was the opposite. It had episodes that were mini sagas.
Oh, wow.
Spanning anywhere from 3 episodes, 4 episodes, or 7 episodes to complete the story arc.
Oh, wow.
And then those episodes would also go back and they would, not tribute, but they would be connected to the next story arc. So it was this continuous continuity that lasted from the time Spider-Man the Animated Series came out to technically all the way through the Spider-Man Unlimited show that starred a different Peter Parker voice, but it was still the animated series Spider-Man. It was,
That's the 90s animated?
Yep, that's the 90s one, and it still has yet to be on DVD. The only DVD that they have for the 90s Spider-Man is they have his Venom saga, which is 5 or 6 episodes.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Yeah, they should put the whole thing. It's kind of weird.
I mean, that's up to Disney, but I think it's on Disney Plus, the 90s Spider-Man show.
Well, the interesting thing that, we still haven't answered the question is, is the guy who plays Venom in the Venom movies going to actually end up in the same universe as Tom Holland or another Spider-Man? Or, okay, so no. So he left a tiny bit of the symbiote crawling on the counter, so that symbiote.
We're jumping a little ahead though.
Sorry.
So let's explain what Eddie's doing. So Eddie was freaking out during the course of Spider-Man No Way Home. He's hanging out in a bar talking to a very kind bartender, which we never get his name, but I'm assuming he's either probably Mexican or Spanish or Hawaiian. He's has his own bar, and from what we've gathered, Eddie has been there quite a while because there's several bottles. He's been having a crisis, a mental crisis, and Venom's trying to calm him down, but Venom is also drunk. So Eddie is freaking out because where he comes from, there are no super people. So this gentleman who just, wants to serve his customers at this hotel bar is explaining basically the entire almost 20-year history of the Marvel Universe to this guy who he has no idea
He has
who
no
he
idea it
is.
happened.
He's kind of like confused because he's explaining all this stuff. He was like, yes, there was a man in a metal suit that flew around, and then he did the cross, like the Catholic cross across, talking about Tony Stark. And then Venom is like, well, what about the little angry green man? And he's like, Hulk.
Right,
and he's
because
like,
Tony Stark died. Yeah.
So they basically talking about the Avengers. They talked about all kinds of stuff that maybe we'll get like a more expanded scene for the DVD. That would be my guess, that you would have like Venom kind of freaking out in Tom Holland's universe. And then he talks about aliens, and Eddie gets all defensive because you know that Venom is inside Eddie's brain, right? Like he kind of feeds off his...
I think so. Yeah, he can hear everything he's hearing.
When the guy was talking about purple aliens, he was like, aliens aren't purple, man. Aliens, they're nasty and they eat your brains. They don't want no stones. And then the bartender gets all angry and he's like, no, senor, you don't understand. He made my family disappear. And Eddie's like, oh, I'm sorry. He's like, for 5 years. And Eddie's like, oh, 5 years, that's a long time. But it just doesn't make any sense. And then Venom, who's very tipsy, afterwards, he's kind of like, oh, he says, I want to go swimming. And Brock's like, no, we need to hear more of this. And then all of a sudden, after Doctor Strange has finished his spell, then just like Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield and all the other characters, Venom is pulled back to his world, which is the Sonyverse. And the guy who is there is kind of upset because, I mean, he's not fazed at all that possibly Eddie was an alien or some type of because they live in the MCU and all kinds of crazy stuff happen.
Kinds of crazy shit.
But Eddie didn't pay his bill. But,
right, yeah, he made him talk. He talked to him for like an hour or
hours,
and he didn't even pay his bill for what he ordered.
He didn't pay his bill.
Well, I mean, he got zapped out of there.
Yeah, I mean...
But it was weird that he wasn't concerned with the fact that he was zapped out of there. He was like, he left without paying his bill.
He left without paying his bill.
Dude, he just disappeared in front of you.
I know, that's crazy. So, Eddie is gone, and we don't see him back in his universe, but his universe, according to Sony, consists of Morbius and some other movies that they're going to be making. And he, like Amber said, he does leave a piece of the symbiote behind, which got a reaction online for people because they're thinking Tom Holland's arc is probably going to involve Venom. Well, maybe Flash Thompson, who will be traveling the world, will be the only guy to remember Peter because maybe the symbiote will attach to Flash and make him Agent Venom.
Wow, interesting.
And then because he's connected to Venom's infinite collective, he would be the only person in the MCU that knew Peter Parker was Spider-Man.
Yeah, because he would know because the symbiote would know.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, obviously, I don't know, just like a random, it's not important, but
sure.
I feel like they were in some kind of vacation spot in a Spanish-speaking country because
probably
they were watching telenovela. They were watching soap operas in Spanish. So
no, that was in their apartment.
Oh, okay. So then I have no idea.
They live in New York City.
Okay, then I have no idea. So they just enjoy watching the Spanish soap operas.
At least I think they live in New York City, or maybe Venom takes place in California. I don't remember.
Some people like watching the Spanish soap operas more than American ones because they're
I like Korean dramas.
They're very dramatic. Spanish soap operas have a different way of going. Just like you like K-dramas, some people just prefer the Spanish ones than the English ones.
My grandma, who's Portuguese, used to watch a lot of Spanish dramas. New York television.
Yeah, some people really like those. I mean, I've seen a little bit of them, yeah. But anyway, yeah.
They have a lot of continuity involved with them.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna, if you're gonna watch the Spanish soap operas instead of the American ones, then you'll have a whole different cast, and you have different actors that you follow, and so anyway, yeah, exactly. I've heard they're very dramatic. They have different ways, just like K-dramas have a certain way that they always have someone get hit by a car. You have different memes in Spanish. If you really like the Spanish ones, then they have certain memes that always happen in a Spanish one. So yeah, exactly.
Yep. So I mean, for me, I feel like the biggest missed opportunity was not to have. I would have loved Venom to show up, and kind of freak out Toby. That would have been interesting for Toby, because Toby was very expressive in the movie.
Right.
Which people should go and watch the movie again, because you can actually see Toby is a very like facial actor, because I
Yeah.
mean he has a baby face, so he has to express emotions a little bit differently than some other actors, because he really has to push himself more because of his very boyish features, which makes him perfect to play Peter Parker for a very long time.
Yeah.
But he had like a very like terrified look when Green Goblin essentially blew up Doctor Strange. But of course Doctor Strange was fine. He tangled with Thanos, it ain't no thing. Pumpkin bomb to wherever Doctor Strange got hit didn't really do anything other than probably just annoy Doctor Strange. And Doctor Strange probably would have easily wrecked the Green Goblin afterwards, but the multiverse was collapsing in itself. Everybody who knew who Peter Parker was across the multiverse was coming to Holland's MCU Earth. Or I think we should just call it the MCU Earth.
Yeah, it's hard to say whose Earth it's gonna be, because we don't even know what the Spider-Man actor is gonna be that they're gonna have for the MCU going forward or something.
No, we know who the MCU Spidey is gonna be. Like, it's gonna be Tom Holland. But there's going to be a Sonyverse Spider-Man.
Interesting.
And it's going to be a past Spider-Man.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you're gonna do another video on that?
We could do a very lengthy video on that, actually, yeah. So, let's, wrap this one up. We could talk about the Doctor Strange thing, but...
So how... Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
What?
How scared do you think that Tobey Maguire would be to see...
To see Venom again?
See Venom.
Pretty terrifying, because Venom was the closest he came to dying. Like, Venom... You have to remember that Venom, before it fused with Spider-Man, it was not as strong. I mean, it was an alien that, like, sucked off its host's, essence, but Peter's DNA, Peter has super strength, he has, like, spider abilities, he has super agility, he can do all kinds of stuff that Venom incorporated into its cell structure, and possibly throughout the multiverse. Like, they might owe Peter Parker their ability to be more than just alien goo that feeds off its host. I don't know. So for Toby to see Venom again, I think that would have been hilarious, because maybe he would have done... He hasn't done his, like... He didn't do a shriek. There was no Toby shriek in this movie. When Toby is really scared, he goes, ah! He has, like, a Toby shriek.
Oh my gosh. His eyes are very expressive, because everyone else just kind of turns their head and is just like... And Toby's like, oh, like his whole face. Him and
Andrew Garfield.
Well, no, I was gonna say William Dafoe and Toby are very expressive.
Well, yeah.
Andrew Garfield is kind of expressive, but Toby.
Go back and watch the fight between Green Goblin and Toby inside of that, like wherever they were with all the climax of the fight. When Green Goblin really hits Peter hard, Peter has like a Peter shriek.
Oh wow.
So there was no Peter shriek or yelling for Peter. Peter was very calm even after getting stabbed.
It's like,
in this universe. He's a veteran crime fighter now. It doesn't bother him.
It really felt like he had to be stronger for the other Spider-Man so he could be a good example, like, because he's like, I need to be here for you guys. So I felt like if he was on his own getting stabbed in the back, I feel like he would have like shrieked or something, but he was trying to remain calm to like calm the other Spider-Man down.
Maybe. I don't know. I think it's because he's been around so long that he's just gotten used to being stabbed, electrocuted. I'm serious.
Yeah.
If you've been what I love about it is Toby didn't look like he was retired. Toby looked like he was still Spider-Man after the last time we saw him, and he's not. They didn't change his face digitally like they did Defoe and Milano, or whatever his name is, the guy who played Doc Ock.
Yeah,
like it was Toby, Spider-Man, in the present time.
Yeah.
Long after, 20 years after the events of the first Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, so it's like...
Oops.
It's like he got married and he continued to be Spider-Man for like 20 years or something.
Yeah, I just hope he didn't get divorced, because they did that to Peter B. Parker in the Spider-Verse, which essentially they said Peter B. Parker was supposed to be like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know, it's weird. I don't know. I mean, you'd think Mary Jane would have to grow as a person a lot too, though, because, you know, she really wanted to be an actress and all this stuff. Like, I mean, I didn't really, it's hard to say what she would do, like how she would settle down and become a mom and just take care of family and stuff. Like, she was she wanted to be an actress, she wanted to be on stage, so it's hard to know what she would be like to actually, you know, just try to take care of a house and support her husband, his job, and it's a lot different mindset you have to be married than to.
Can I just interrupt?
Just try to, you know.
For her husband, what job? I'm pretty sure that Mary Jane would be the breadwinner. He's too busy going out web slinging and, you know, saving the world to do like basic stuff, like, you know, important things like having a job. And
you're trying to say Toby wouldn't have a job? Wouldn't he work as an photographer for the Daily Bugle?
Do you know how much he made a month as a photographer? Do you want me to tell you?
Luke, Toby was very smart. He worked for some of the top scientists. He worked for Otto Octavius. He worked for Dr. Connors.
He was writing a paper. He was writing a paper. He wasn't employed by them.
Dr. Osborne said he was extremely intelligent.
Yeah, and then he reamed him for working at the Daily Bugle. And Peter was like, well, I mean, you know, someday I'd like to do this. And Otto's kind of like, you need to, you know, really consider some career changes or something like that. But every movie Peter was in, he was still at the Daily Bugle.
You don't know what could have happened. I mean, he could have gotten.
I'm just playing devil's advocate, honey.
Oh, you're just saying, like, what if Mary Jane was the one that ended up?
From what it looks like to people, that Mary Jane was the breadwinner because she was in the theater and she had, you know, a second job and all this other stuff. And Peter,
yeah, you're right. She was waiting tables and doing her acting.
In fact,
and she did the jazz club singing. She was doing a lot.
She broke up with Peter in Spider-Man 3, not just because he was flaunting Gwen around and, you know, kind of neglecting her, but also he really wasn't trying his best to get a better job. Like, she even mentions in the movie that she was doing everything. Like, you know,
interesting.
The reason why his bills weren't being evicted from their apartment is because she was taking care of stuff.
Oh, wow. And, yeah, she did look like she was working really hard.
Yep. And his apartment goes to ruin again when she's not there anymore. So
it makes me feel sad because they're both so talented and he's so smart, and
he doesn't have time because he's Spider-Man.
They're like the super couple.
Yeah.
They're like couples goals. And
but that's when he said in the movie that, you know, Mary Jane and him work stuff out. I think he was like kind of bringing us up to speed after the events of Spider-Man 3. Like, because he said they work things out. That must mean they're together then.
So again, this is exactly why I do kind of really like the Raimi Spider-Man universe, is even though he's so smart and tries his hardest, it's still hard for him to do real life, just like it is for many people that, you know, we get to see people online all the time that, you know, they've done all these amazing things and they work so hard at their job or their school and it didn't work out for them and they feel sad, and it's hard because we get to see people from all over the world in real life that do everything right, but it doesn't work out sometimes.
Yeah.
So that's why I feel like Toby is very relatable, because life is hard. Even if you do everything right, it's still hard sometimes. I don't mean to be depressing.
No, you're fine.
But that's why I really don't like, I really, really appreciated Toby coming back, because he's like us, like real people, whereas Tom Holland is just like, oh, I easily got into MIT and like, look at me now. And it's just like,
that kind of bothered me.
Like, I don't like you. Like, you're just not very relatable or nice.
I want somebody to recut the sequence where he goes to talk to Doctor Strange and the internet puts Bully Maguire in it. And when Tom Holland is complaining about not getting into school, you have Bully Maguire with the Doctor Strange cape, and he looks at Peter and he says, I fail to see how that's my problem, or, you know, so one of the Tobey Maguire lines. You gonna cry? You know, that kind of stuff. I demand. I can't edit that stuff, but I can't wait for all the new Bully Maguire memes.
We didn't get into MIT. You're gonna cry. But they should have let me in. It's not fair. I fail to see the part where that's my problem.
Yeah. Exactly. Oh my gosh, I love you. You're so fun.
Yeah.
So before we wrap it up, we're going to talk a little bit about Doctor Strange's thing, because it's technically part of it's a teaser for the movie, and you guys can actually go on IGN and other places and see the teaser. It's available now. The movie comes out in May, and I strongly advise that you guys watch Marvel What If, because if you don't, you're not going to know anything that's going on, because Marvel What If, the animated series on Disney Plus, which is getting a second season, I believe, it deals with a version of Doctor Strange that's going to be a very interesting aspect of the movie, such as, like, he is kind of responsible for the multiverse collapsing, like, because of probably the things that he did in both the What If thing and also in this movie. So there's going to be a good version of Doctor Strange and a very evil version. So he's going to be battling himself, the fact that he needs Wanda and some other people to help him. It's possible we might see cameos from some other Marvel characters that they're not obviously going to show in the trailer. Like if Andrew Garfield or Tobey are in the movie, they're not going to tell you because they didn't tell you for the marketing of this film, which is amazing that they're going to make $1 billion probably on this movie, and they haven't even really kicked in the marketing for Tobey and Andrew. That'll probably happen after Christmas. They'll put like new trailers and telling people, because they're going to want people to go to the theater that probably don't like Tom Holland Spider-Man, but they'll get them to go because they'll appeal to Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire fans, which there are a lot of Tobey Maguire fans. Like 20 years worth of Tobey Maguire jokes and love and tribute and stuff like that. Those fans didn't go away. Not all of them became Tom Holland or Andrew Garfield fans either. Like some might be hardcore Spider-Man fans that watch everything, but there might be Tobey fans that just only like Tobey stuff, the Tobey video games, the Tobey movies, the Tobey comics, the Tobey Spider-Man, the Tobey world.
Yeah.
You know?
Before we talk about Doctor Strange, may I just say I saw an interesting compilation of clips where it explained that actually they made Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man pretty relatable too. They said like 12 times in the movie it showed that like Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man really didn't have any money, and like really, because like he has different times in the movie where he's trying to pay for stuff with change. He asks them if they have 2 pennies and they're just like no. And so it's interesting, they do put little things in the movie explaining he is kind of on rough times as well.
Oh yeah.
So, okay, I'm done.
I like hanging out on the road so I get hit by the cars. It's always fun. So yeah, anyway, Doctor Strange movie, you guys can go watch the trailer. It is going to be about the What If universe. It's going to be about the climax of Spider-Man No Way Home. And we know frighteningly little about the trailer. We know that Wanda's going to be in it. And they confirmed that the incident that happened in Wanda's show is canon to the movies. And that was a Disney Plus show, so it's showing the connection between the Disney Plus, the Netflix, Marvel shared universe that was around at one point.
So much connection.
Everything is connected, yep. That's going to be a thing for both Marvel and DC going forward for probably the next... for Marvel, I'm going to say their multiverse is going to lead into Secret Wars and probably like a multiverse war between different variants. So we'll probably see Tobey come back, and unless he's too old, I don't know. And then they'll just
CGI his face.
CGI his face and put him on a younger actor.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's
so
going to be weird.
But anyway.
You got a lot of pep for somebody your age. Yeah, stuff like that. But yeah, check out the trailer, guys. It's available, and that's pretty much it for Doctor Strange and, you know, Venom. I'm amazed that we were able to talk this long, actually, for something.
Oops, sorry.
Oh, no, it's great. I had a lot of fun.
Oh, I mean, I don't know. I mean, yeah, so Wanda and Doctor Strange. Yay.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't really know too much except for she was clipping a branch.
Well, she's trying to make amends for the stuff that she did before becoming the Scarlet Witch, which you actually see her final Disney Plus costume in there as well. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. In the comment section below, tell us what you thought about the post-credits for Venom and all that other stuff. We talked about the Let There Be Carnage thing. We talked about our thoughts about, Venom in the MCU briefly. He will be returning to the Sonyverse, where he will be fighting a Spider-Man. If you want to know what's going on with that, you'll have to watch our next video, which is talking about the future of Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. You don't want to miss that video. We also have another video after Christmas for you guys explaining what happened to Doc Ock, Green Goblin, Electro, Sandman, and the Lizard after they were cured in No Way Home and being
wow.
sent back to a branch reality.
That's a good
and what
question.
that reality would be like. But stay tuned tomorrow for the Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire discussion on what this means for the Sonyverse and Venom. Until then, God bless and happy gaming. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you guys live later today with more Pokemon, and then Spider-Man Ultimate returns for a second episode brought to you by Ultimate member Ed. So thank you, Ed.
Yay.
All right, guys, until we meet again, God bless and happy gaming. Thanks so much for watching another Spider-Man video.
See ya!